Katie Halper Show. On this episode, we talk to the amazingly hilarious stand-up comedian and actor Judah Friedlander about his new book of sketches and cartoons called Raindrops United. We also chat with Judah about the 2016 presidential race, gentrification, Cold War 80s movies, and the drawings Judah made as a child. Plus, you'll never guess who had narcolepsy. Spoiler alert, it wasn't Judah. And here is a shameless but totally necessary plug. If you like the Katie Halper Show, please, please, please go to iTunes, subscribe to the show, rate it, and review it. It takes about a second, all right, maybe 20 seconds. All you have to do is rate it and review it. And then, please, if you want to support the Katie Halper Show and WBAI and community radio, please, please, please go to www.givetowbai.org. That's the number 2, not the word, givetowbai.org. And check out the amazing gifts that you can get if you donate to WBAI, including a really cool CD from the Chalks and 1 pair of tickets is still left to In Your Face New York with Sarah Jones, and a Katie Halper Show comedy bundle, which includes 3 DVDs. 3 DVDs, guys. It's crazy. That's Ted Alexandro's DVD, Justin Williams' DVD, Julie Golden's DVD, and a CD from the hilarious Chalks. Also, you can become a BAI buddy and pick my show as your favorite. Thanks so much. See you next week with Ta-Nehisi Coates. That's right. Ta-Nehisi Coates is coming on the show October 28th. Hello and welcome to the Katie Halper Show. I'm your host, Katie Halper. It is October 14th, 6 p.m., a little after 6 p.m.
Yeah, let's be honest.
Let's be honest.
6:04.
It's a little bit, we're on a little bit of a nonprofit schedule, so.
NPS, nonprofit schedule.
NPS, exactly. If it's a Wednesday, anytime before 7, basically, you'll hear the Katie Halper Show. And I'm joined, of course, as always, by my co-pilot,
The
Gabe
one and
Pacheco,
the only.
The one and only Gabe Pacheco. Very funny man, stand-up comedian. Reggie is in Arizona.
Out of town on a vacation.
But luckily we have Tony with us on the soundboard. And we are so thrilled, so excited to have with us #NBD. Judah Friedlander is here in the studio, live.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, you?
I'm cool. I'm supposed to talk now, right?
Yeah, you can, or if you want,
totally
you can do some
knew
stretching.
It. Nah,
whatever.
totally knew it.
You totally, we're
I'm a professional,
we're so
you know?
predictable.
Yeah. No, it's cool to be here. This is a cool little building you're in. I noticed a lot of other cool little companies here.
Yeah, organizations.
Yeah, you got the
nonprofits.
newspaper, The Independent.
Right.
I like that one.
Were we trying to keep it as an undisclosed location that we were broadcasting from?
Yeah,
Did we just get our cover blown?
We just did, and the FBI is showing up in about 2 seconds. Thanks
That's all right.
a lot.
I can fight the FBI. That's not a problem.
It wouldn't be the first time.
No.
It wouldn't be the last time.
No, it would have been the first time, because if I fought him before, there would be no FBI left. So.
Well said.
Yeah.
Wow, I like that. So we're so excited to have Judah with us because he's a very well-known, very well-respected, prolific comedian and actor. Wet Hot American Summer, 30 Rock, a stand-up all over, The Wrestler. And you have a very good book. Not that I've read it or anything. Listeners out there don't know this. But there is a copy of Judah Friedlander's new book. It's called If the Raindrops United. And I kind of nerded out on it with some Post-its. It's kind of like A Beautiful Mind. You know that movie with...
Yeah, I'm looking at your copy of the book. You must have about 30 or 40 Post-it notes singling out different drawings and cartoons in the book.
And I have them annotated. We're going to get into it later, but
Great.
Basically, I wanted to, just so everyone's on the same page, some of our listeners may not be that familiar with your work. I want to play a clip of some of your work.
Oh, okay. So I'm not doing it right now.
No, I'm going to play it.
You have it archived.
I have it archived and downloaded.
I think this is the stand-up bit I do about Christopher Columbus Day. Oh, yeah, I'm talking to someone in the crowd who's from Argentina, and then I tell them about how we have some weird holidays here, and then I start telling them about Christopher Columbus Day.
And when is this from? Just so we all...
I've been doing the bit for a while, but this particular clip is from August, from the Comedy Cellar.
Argentina, we have a lot of weird holidays in this country. We have Christopher Columbus Day. Have you heard of it? It's about Christopher Columbus. He's the guy who discovered America, even though there was already 1 million people living here for thousands of years. And he called them Indians because he thought he landed in India, but he landed in America. But they just kept calling them Indians, and then they pretty much slaughtered all the Indians. And we have a holiday celebrating that guy. It's kind of weird. How should we really celebrate Christopher Columbus Day? Here's a thought. You know when you're up in a big building on a high floor and you're going back down to the lobby, but the elevator's crowded and someone else has pressed floor 3, but you weren't paying attention. So when the elevator stops on floor 3, you get off because you think it's the lobby. And then instead of realizing that, and then walking back into the elevator and admitting that you're a moron, and you're like, hey guys, sorry, I'm a f***ing idiot, I wasn't paying attention, I thought it was the lobby. No, you don't admit it. You just stay on floor 3 and you pretend it's the lobby. And then you murder everyone on floor 3. That's how we should celebrate Christopher Columbus Day. Just a thought, just a thought.
Judah Friedlander on Christopher Columbus. How do people respond to that, by the way?
Well, you heard the crowd. It gets huge laughs and applause.
Right.
Yeah. But a lot of countries have weird holidays, but most don't have one that celebrates the person who discovered their country, even though they probably really didn't discover it.
Right,
yeah.
right. I actually have I wrote this like last year, and I published it again this year, but I thought maybe you'd be interested in it, Judah, because it's some scary Columbus Day quotes.
Okay.
And you can incorporate some of them into your act if you want.
Okay. These are quotes that he said?
They're either quotes about him or quotes that he said.
Okay.
So here's something that he wrote to King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella. This is like really adorable. They willingly traded everything they owned. They were well built with good bodies and handsome features. They do not bear arms and do not know them, for I showed them a sword. They took it by the edge and cut themselves out of ignorance. They have no iron. Their spears are made of cane. They would make fine servants. With 50 men, we could subjugate them all and make them do whatever we want.
Yeah, I think I had read that before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's nice.
That's not usually taught in history classes.
Right. This I found from Howard Zinn's A People's History of the United
great
States.
book.
Nice guy.
Got
great
it
guy.
on Audible right now. So many hours, like 32 hours
Really?
long.
Do you?
Yeah, it's great.
Oh, yeah, it is really good. And then, this is the best one. If I had to pick a favorite, this is not Columbus, but basically Columbus was such a mensch, he'd let his guys do whatever they wanted with the natives. And one of his men, who was a childhood friend of his, Michel de Coneo, describes in a letter how he raped a native woman. While I was in the boat, I captured a very beautiful Carib woman, whom the said Lord Admiral, that's Columbus, gave to me. When I had taken her to my cabin, she was naked, as was their custom. I was filled with the desire to take my pleasure with her and attempted to satisfy my desire. She was unwilling, and so treated me with her nails that I wish I had never begun. But, to cut a long story short, I then took a piece of rope and whipped her soundly, and she let forth such incredible screams that you would not have believed your ears. Eventually we came to such terms, I assure you, that you would have thought that she had been brought up in a school for whores. So, you should use all of this. I think this.
And
would
who
be
was that person who
This
said
is
that?
one of Columbus's childhood friends who he brought with him to.
Oh, one of his buddies.
One of his buds.
Oh,
his bros.
okay.
One of his bros. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's who he
says. That's horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's the best thing about this is that I wrote this, and someone on Twitter was like, I appreciate the sentiment, but those seem really unrealistic. Do you have sources for any of those? Yeah. And everything was linked in the article.
Yeah. Well, that brings up an interesting point, where something I've found, especially when you're talking about, I'm like digressing from comedy here for a second, but
unlike
when
me,
you're talking about any kind of like human rights
funny.
issues or trying to get people to understand your point of view, whether it's women's rights, whether it's Black Lives Matter, so many people just biologically and naturally, I think, cannot understand someone else and their point of view. Many people cannot understand something until it actually happens to them and they're there. Some people can. Some people can, imagine what it would be like if they were a completely different person in a completely different environment and infrastructure. But I think a lot of people, I don't know if it's most, but many can't. So,
lack of empathy.
So when a person's saying that, I think there's two factors, because there are some people who intentionally refuse to see anyone else's problems. Most people in the world, no matter where they are in life and where they come from, life can be tough, no matter who you are. So I think many people, they put blinders on to all these other issues that aren't maybe their issues, And then there's the people who literally just you can tell them everything you want, and they just can't really fathom it unless it actually happens to them. So when you have those two factors going on, that makes creating change in anything very difficult, because you're up one thing that's natural in a lot of people and then one that's intentional. And then some people might have both going on. So they can be really hard to change,
Right.
But
so like you're saying that maybe there's some people have a lack of empathy. And
then I think even people who are often, demanding change, and there's no one right way to do it, but sometimes those people don't have empathy for the people that are oppressing them or misunderstanding them.
Right.
Sometimes I think, there aren't as many bad people as you really think there are. And, through openness and kindness and warmness, you might be able to win over more people than actual fighting. But then there are many situations that have happened throughout time where being warm and open has not worked at all, and you have to fight.
Right.
So
like the Native Americans.
Right.
Coming full circle.
Right, exactly. Human rights are never just given to you.
Right.
You always have to. They have to be fought for by usually for decades at least.
Right.
To get any kind of change. So.
The Frederick Douglass quote, "Power concedes nothing."
Yeah.
I have to.
So it's like when someone sends you a comment like that, it's like I wouldn't even get upset. That's almost to be expected.
Right, well, it was just funny because usually they're really hateful or they call me names.
Yeah.
But this was funny because I felt like she was trying to be conscientious. Like I appreciate your sentiment, but
they're being passive aggressive.
Yeah, passive aggressive, and also like just they're underlined words. To click on. But you're right.
I'd rather fight hate with love, but
I sent
you can't always do it that way. But
her.
Even when I'm doing comedy
and
I'm doing jokes about very serious issues, I try to be very careful to not preach to the choir, because I find that kind of not that challenging and not that interesting.
A waste of time.
I want people on the left on the crowd, people on the right on the crowd. I want them both to be laughing.
Right.
I don't want just one group laughing. Because to me then the bit's not really that great of a bit. You should be able to get it to a level so that everyone's digging it, even if they don't agree with you. I mean, that's pretty cool if you can do that.
Right.
That's kind of what I aim for.
So this book that you wrote, If the Raindrops United, which is cartoons and drawings.
In stores, October 20th.
Can people pre-order?
They can certainly pre-order it.
How do
they can post-order it, pre-order it. Just Google it. It'll take you to any site. They all sell it. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, IndieBound. Yeah, if you go to my website and pre-order it, there's actually a promotion going on where you can get a free signed poster of the book cover sent to you also.
So that's where you want people to go then?
No, you can go wherever you want.
You
may not want it. What if a person hates posters? They shouldn't have to go there.
Yeah, poster phobes count, Gabe. Poster phobes count.
So and then I'm doing a couple big events. If you go to my website, JudahFriedlander.com, you'll see I have many tour dates. I'm going all over the country, Canada also, doing all kinds of events. And some are just stand-up events, some are just bookstore events, and then some are a combination where it's a stand-up show and you get the book also.
Nice. Stand up and sit down and read.
Yeah.
You do all of that. So I was curious because so much of your book, which is cartoons and drawings, is very political. Some of it more overtly political, some of it less overtly. But
sure.
I want to know what kind of political education you had as a child growing up, how political your parents were, if they weren't political and you kind of found it on your own.
I mean, I think they both were. I think my dad was more than my mom. And in the dedication of the book, I dedicate the book to my mom and my dad. And my mom, always did, tons of artwork and all kinds of art. And, so I was doing art since I was a little kid. And then my dad, I just, have memories of him really just sort of, I remember, lecturing me about always, questioning authority.
But not in a boring way.
Don't believe everything you hear. Don't believe everything you read, especially when it's coming from the television.
Right. And it's really fascinating. This is real, right? Because in the beginning of your book, you actually have, unless I'm being really gullible.
In the book, awesome. I have a drawing from when I was 10 and one from when I was about 11.
Right. So you have, I've been doing stand-up since I was 19, but I've been drawing since I was a kid. Here's one I did when I was 10. And then can you describe it? And then.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's this one guy who's not saying anything, and another guy comes up to him and says, "What you doing?" The guy just stands there blankly saying nothing. Then the guy asks, "What you doing?" again. The guy still says nothing. So the guy's like, "Well, this is weird," walks away. And then a little kid comes up there, sees the guy, and it's like, nice statue. So the other guy was trying to talk to a statue the whole time.
That's pretty precocious, humor-wise.
Yeah, I was
right?
10 when I did that.
You
can see the date. It's 1979.
That's great.
And then I did one. I remember I think it was 6th grade. We were studying about Lech Walesa and Poland and Russia conflict, and so I found this cartoon I did of Lech Walesa in a Russian jail, and I don't even know if I fully understand what I was trying to go for in this cartoon, but I think it's kind of like I was like, it's kind of neat. It's like, wow, I was really into that stuff.
And there's a picture, there's an image of, is that him?
Yeah.
Walesa, and he's standing behind bars.
Yeah.
And it says Russian Zoo.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea what the...
I'm not sure exactly what that is. I don't know. I think it's, he was, imprisoned, I believe, near the Russian border or in Russia. And so I guess this is me thinking... Here Russia is trying to parade him around.
Right, treating him like an animal. Maybe?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
that's kind of cool that you have this insight into your child.
Yeah.
Well, they were like, I feel like for people before the Cold War ended, Russia was like a much bigger like bad guy, like a boogeyman.
Right.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I mean, when I was a little kid in school, I mean, and even in the movies, if you look at the movies, you can look at Rocky IV, which was
Drago.
I think came out in '84. It was basically Russia was the evil empire.
My favorite from that time period was Red Dawn, the first Red Dawn.
Red Dawn is a great film. That was John Milius who directed that.
Did he? That's and it had my favorite. Swayze was up in there.
Not bad for a bunch of kids, huh?
Just doing his
Swayze,
thing.
Charlie Sheen, Jennifer Grey, C. Thomas Howell, Powers Booth.
Wow.
Yeah, basically, Russia invades America.
This is the emergency broadcast system. We are under attack by conventional forces of the Russian army. Large areas of the Midwest may have been overrun.
And a rural high school football team basically fights the Russian Empire.
They're gonna kill us! All of us! So why should we be different? Because we live here!
At the end of the movie, there's scrolling text in like historical text acting like all of this really happened. It was the movie could not have been more serious, but it's completely ridiculous.
Right.
But it's great at the
That's
same
kind of
time.
the 80s for you, right?
But it's great at the same time.
And it's pre the rise of sort of the nerds that have taken over now, and that it was the American football team, the heartland, that fights back.
Right.
Yeah, and then they did a new version a few years ago.
I think a lot worse. Right?
And, yeah, I still enjoyed it a lot. It was, they're both, kind of definitely, preying on people's fears, and you can call the films propaganda probably if you want. But
were they?
So the
from
new
the
one,
Middle East now?
no, they're North Korean.
Oh, great.
But when they filmed the movie, they were Chinese.
Oh.
And then Hollywood realized, oh, wait a second, our movies make a lot of money in China.
Right.
And
That's
China's, we do a lot of business with them. So they actually went in and I think dubbed all of the actors' lines into Korean.
Wow.
And they made them North Korean,
Now, something interesting. I was listening to you on a podcast, Marina Franklin's podcast.
Yeah.
Which is great. And someone said something about you being a Jewish comedian, and then I heard you say that you don't really identify as Jewish. And
well, yeah, it's weird. My dad's Jewish, my mom's Catholic. I was kind of, I wasn't bar mitzvahed or anything, and we didn't go to church that often. I mean, I think I went a few times. My mom would take me and my brother and just show us around the church and tell us about all different things, especially around Easter. But that was only a few times. And, we would go to the holidays sometimes, some years and some years not, for Jewish holidays to the
holidays.
synagogue.
Right.
But, as the older I get, it's like I feel like I can relate to both on a cultural level, but not a religious level. I mean, I'm not religious.
Right.
I don't think I ever was. I mean, I remember being a kid, and then some people find out you're Jewish, and some of them would actually think you're like the devil or something.
Have horns and a tail.
You know, and then, moving to New York, you realize that there are some people who are Jewish, and they assume you're Jewish, and they know you, and then they find out that your mom's not Jewish, and all of a sudden they behave so nasty to you, and they act like you just murdered their dog or something, and I'm like, wow.
You either murdered someone's Jesus or someone else's dog. Right?
Yeah,
a lot of blood on our hands.
So I've definitely had very negative feelings towards me from just random people I've met who thought I was Jewish, and then they find out that my mom's not Jewish, and then it's basically like they look at me like someone who's a fraud who is trying to swindle them out of all of their life's possessions.
My cousins their last names are Eisenberg, but their mom is not Jewish. And I come from a long line of Jews who do not celebrate any Jewish holidays and also do not care if you marry a Jew.
Right.
But what's interesting is I had an experience where I used to never identify as Jewish because I wasn't religious. And as I've gotten older, the more people tell me that you're not Jewish if you're not religious, or the more people tell people I know you're not Jewish if your mom isn't, the more I've clung to my Jewish identity.
Interesting.
Kind of out of defiance, but also because the whole Israeli-Palestinian conflict, very easy issue to talk about, because of people like AIPAC who say that they represent the Jews and they have a very hawkish position. I feel like it's my responsibility also to say I'm a Jew and I don't actually see it that way.
Gotcha. My name is very Jewish, so it is deceptive. But I'm never forcing any kind of identity I might have on anybody.
Right.
So for me, it's not really
Can you
that
take
much
off
of
the Jewish star that our listeners can't see? He has a huge Jewish star blocking his entire torso and face.
For me, it's I think all religions can be great and can be bad depending on how they're used.
But you had a great line during this podcast about Hitler's.
Oh, yeah. That was my friend Mike Weiss. I can't remember. He either came up with it or we came up with it together, but we were talking about this. And I remember visiting the Holocaust Museum in D.C., and they had all these it was like a medical exhibit, and they had all these charts. And one of the charts was on how Hitler decided who was Jewish. And basically, if one grandparent was Jewish, he considered you Jewish, and then you were basically targeted for extermination. So, and then if you look at many Jews in this country today, if your mother's not Jewish, you're not Jewish, and it's like you're worthless. So in some ways, Hitler was more inclusive of Jewish people than Jewish people.
Yeah, some
today.
Jews have a lot of tolerance that they could learn from Hitler.
Yeah.
Seriously. But it's funny because that was my standard. Like legitimately, whenever people were like, you're not Jewish, she's not Jewish, I'm like, look, if you're Jewish enough for Hitler, you're a Jew.
Yeah.
Because I think that, and not even facetiously, I think that defines a lot of your identity is the way you're treated or not treated by society, right?
Yeah.
Like when people say Obama was raised by white people, it's like, he walks down the street and the world sees a black man, and they always saw a black man when he was a kid, Can we come up with a new Jewish process? Like a couple episodes ago, I made someone an honorary Jew. And maybe we can get some kind of stamp or badge. Although
I'm not looking to join any group.
I know, but I just feel like it would be good if
you want to add me to something, that's fine.
Can I put you on the listserv?
Yeah, if you want to do that, you do what you want,
awesome. Cool,
But, that's your thing. If I had to say I have one identity, it's that of an outsider and someone who doesn't fit in with anyone.
Right. But it's funny
even amongst
ago,
comics, I wouldn't put myself in one clique amongst the comedian community, because even amongst stand-ups, there are different cliques and stuff. I'm not even in any one of those, so that's the only thing I identify with is just being alone.
World champion,
I would say
a lone wolf,
a
rogue.
Okay.
So we are going to take a very short musical break. This is the Katie Halper Show. We're talking to Judah Friedlander. We are talking to him about his book, If the Raindrops United. We're going to talk more about the drawings and cartoons in that book, and we're also going to talk a little bit about the debates. We're going to play a song that is pretty related to the Columbus Day joke that we just heard Judah doing, and it goes a little something like this.
January 20th, 1964. Some redneck said Indians can't fish here no more. Natives said we've been fishing here since before here was here, sucker. This is what we do. February 27, 1964. A few Indians said, we ain't taking this no more. We've been taking care of these salmon since before Christopher Columbus raped for the first time, sucker. This is what we do. Marlon Brando was an actor. Uncle Billy made him a fact. Harry Belafonte schooled him and took this white boy in. Marched on Washington with James Baldwin. Wasn't trying to be a savior, but knew that someday equality would win. March 2nd, 1964. Uncle Hank brought him 2 o'clock in the morning. Meet us on the Puyallup to get all these white folks scorned. See if they have that same scorn for you, cause this is what we do. March 2nd, 1964. Marlon, Bob Satayaka, and some more. OGs got arrested on those beautiful shores of the Puyallup for natives doing exactly what the hell natives do.
Welcome back to the Katie Halper Show. I'm your host, Katie Halper, here with Gabe Pacheco and our special guest live in studio, Judah Friedlander, talking to us about his book, If the Raindrops United. We're going to be talking more about that book of drawings and cartoons. That, by the way, we were just listening to Gayasi Ross, an activist, poet, and lawyer. And we also want to tell you a special little heads up. If you like me, maybe you hate me, hopefully you like me. Hopefully you like Gabe Pacheco. Hopefully you like this show and you want to support it. You want to take it under your wing and hold it close to your bosom, as my English teacher in 8th grade called it when he was talking about Hester Prynne's bosom. You can support the show for like almost no money, literally almost no money. Like the price of an expensive cup of coffee, you can pay $10 a month and you'll be supporting the show and you become a WBAI buddy. And you get all these perks. You get, like, not only do you get a tote bag. I mean, everyone gets a tote bag when they do that kind of stuff. But you get all these perks like Zip card discounts, the Joyce Theater. And it'll help us continue the show. If you've liked the show, if you've liked our conversations with Jelani Cobb, Rebecca Carroll, Ali Gharib, Margaret Cho, Nate Silver, Claire Potter. Maybe you want to hear Ta-Nehisi Coates. That's good, because we're going to have him on October 28th.
When?
October 28th, Ta-Nehisi Coates. Go to Give to WBAI. Okay, give to WBAI.org, of course, because we're a nonprofit. Give to WBAI.org. And Judah, thanks again for joining us.
Always here for you.
Thank you, always.
Yeah.
You've been here from the beginning of this show.
Yep.
Of this episode. Yep.
I've actually been here for every episode you've ever done. This is my first time speaking.
It's true. Judah sits in the corner. You get really involved in trance. And you meditate, and we forget you're here, even. That's how...
Like a guardian angel looking over our shoulders.
I thought I was sleeping. You can call it meditation if you want.
I was trying to give you, the benefit of the doubt. You were sleeping. I was trying to pretend that the show was more enticing than it actually is.
Oh, okay.
But you also have narcolepsy. That's the disease, right? Where you fall asleep?
I don't know if it's a disease. Maybe it's a disorder.
Oh, wow. Look at you, Mr. PC.
Wait, who has narcolepsy?
Well, I was joking that you did, and that's why you fell asleep. But guess what? Newsflash, you guys, this sounds like a joke. It's not. Guess who had narcolepsy? The disease where you fall asleep. Guess who had it? Harriet Tubman.
What?
Can you think of a worse position to be in than leading an underground railroad and falling asleep at night? Like, hey, guys, just make a turn. What's that? And she did it so many times. She's already this brave, total badass hero without having a sleep disorder. Like no warning, sleep onset attack disorder. Anyway, way to go, Harriet Tubman. Like, that much more impressive. So I thought we would talk about the debates last night.
Okay.
And then, because, again, people know that you're a very talented actor and stand-up. And you're probably, I guess, do most people who talk to you on the street recognize you from 30 Rock? Is that the biggest?
It's a mix, That's been the biggest one for several years. But now it's a mix, When I'm walking around New York, I think more people know me from stand-up.
Right.
But, if I go anywhere, I would say 30 Rock.
Right. And then, like, in American Splendor, that was...
Yeah, hardly anyone remembers me from that.
Right.
Although that's probably the the best movie I've been in, and certainly I don't know if it's my best, but one of my best performances.
And you got nominated. You got a.
I got a lot of accolades for that. I got nominated for an Independent Spirit Award for Best Supporting Actor.
That's great.
And then some, USA Today, I think, named me Best Supporting Actor of the Year, and New York Times Magazine did like their picks of like their favorite actors of the year, and I was in that. So
you are
it was
a
pretty
Renaissance
cool.
man.
It was pretty cool.
And you make hats. You make your own hats. Right?
Yeah.
So, but not to. I mean, everyone. I'm sure you think I'm being Renaissance man, but you kind of are. You have an oddly eclectic group of talents.
Well, that's cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
That's a nice compliment.
Sure.
I'll take it.
Yeah, I'll write a blurb for you. I'll just handwrite it on all the copies of the books.
Great.
It'll be very DIY. Great. So what did you think of the debates? You had some great tweets about them.
Oh, well, I only saw about the first 20 minutes of it. I thought it got off to a bad start with Sheryl Crow singing the national anthem.
Could she not have chosen a song in her range? I know we don't have that many national anthems, but
first of all, a poor rendition of the national anthem, and just, I mean, I only watched parts of the Republican debates. Did they do the national anthem before the debate? I thought it was such a weird, desperate attempt to make us look like we're not anti-American, and it's really... like, who are you? What was that all about?
They should have had the Pledge of Allegiance too.
I mean,
right
and
before.
I have nothing against the national anthem
or Sheryl Crow,
but that was just such a odd choice to do it before a debate. I'm like, let's get to the debate. Stop wasting airtime.
And it was really, she's a good singer. That was not. I mean, maybe she could have
there was
gone
a baseball
with
game
God
on
Bless America
last night. If we really wanted to see the national anthem. Watch it and listen to it there.
Right.
It was just odd. It seemed like a very staged, fake kind of thing.
Yeah,
and what I'm looking for in a debate is for candidates to be real, not be fake.
Right.
So they started out with something so fake, and I'm like, how's it going to get real after this?
Yeah, I thought it was going to be really boring because whoever planned the GOP debate before the Democratic one really dropped the ball, because you always want the funnier comedian at the end, right? And I just thought that the comedy gold had already been spent. But there were surprisingly funny moments. Like Jim Webb really pulled through. He really came through, I think. And who else? Lincoln Chafee. I feel so bad for him. Like, I just wanted to hug him the whole time. I found him so endearingly awkward. It almost made me want to vote for him. Yeah. And when he described himself as a rock of granite, was that it?
With the integrity of a granite, he's granite.
But I was like, you're insult. What's it called when you? I don't know anything about sports, but I know that the thing where you kick a ball into your own goal. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, an own goal.
Okay, that's like he own goaled himself. Like, that's an insult that someone should say about you. You don't insult yourself. But it was cute because he thought he was saying something nice. But and I was just waiting for Jim Webb seemed like such a robot. I had this fantasy, and it wasn't a total fantasy. Like, I had some stock in it actually happening, but I wanted Joe Biden to rip off the mask of who we thought was Jim Webb and reveal himself and just declare that he was entering the race.
Oh, that would have been cool.
Awesome, right?
That would have been a good entrance.
I think so too. I like that Jim Webb's daughter's a massage therapist.
I didn't know. I didn't get that far in the debate. How does that come out?
He just was talking about his family, what they do.
Oh,
you know.
okay.
She was the third one on the list. He almost forgot her name, and then he
was
tried to low key slide in that
sense.
she was a massage therapist.
Yeah, low key slide in. That's actually her technique, the low key slide in, her massage technique. And of course, you tweeted, "My favorite band is Jeb and the Holograms." I like that.
Oh yeah.
You should start a hashtag that's Republican bands.
Yeah, maybe that's not a bad idea.
Yeah,
or any political bands, really.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, I just liked how Bernie Sanders pronounced the word blunder. He says blunder, and I'm like, that's actually kind of a double blunder.
Right. Double blunder.
You mispronounced blunder.
Well, I said that I told people I was available for simultaneous translation for the New York Jewish accent. I think some people don't know, and they think that's a Vermont accent.
Yeah, no, he is a New York accent.
So thick.
Not many people in New York City have an accent anymore, but
my uncle does.
Yeah, he has one.
Older Jews who have those New York accents like that, they say the R when there is no R, like idea, and then they don't say the R where it is, like plunder, blunder, mother.
Oh, interesting.
And who do you like, by the way? Which candidate? Do you have one in particular?
I mean, I lean. I'm very progressive, so
Jim Webb, all the
would
way.
lean towards the more progressive candidate. I haven't decided who I'm going to vote for or what party.
Oh,
so
the Whig.
Last election I think I voted Green Party.
Right.
The person didn't have a chance, but I think the country really needs to get out of this two-party system too.
Well, he's a socialist, though, Bernie, at least.
Well, he calls himself a democratic socialist, so I don't know if that's full-on socialist or not.
No, but hearing someone say to the potential nominees for the president of the United States, is anyone else on the stage not a capitalist? I was like, swing.
Yeah.
Really exciting moment. I thought that this was an interesting clip because here we're going to hear Bernie Sanders explain why he has the gun position that he has. And it's
he's
different.
actually pretty pro-gun,
Well, relatively, yeah.
He's talking about how it's in rural areas,
Exactly.
gun laws should be different than in urban areas.
Right.
And I think he is right. I mean, I talk about, gun issues in my stand-up act, and I perform all over the place.
Right.
And definitely gun laws, first of all, the gun stuff in this country is absolutely horrendous. But yes, the dynamic of guns in a rural area is completely different than a dynamic in urban area.
Yeah.
But,
I would agree.
But
what's hysterical...
how you deal with it's a whole other issue.
Right.
I don't know.
And what's hysterical is, though, I like the way he says this, because listen to the voice of the man talking about coming from a rural area.
We can raise our voices, but I come from a rural state, and the views on gun control in rural states are different than in urban states, whether we like it or not. Our job is to bring people together around strong, common sense gun legislation.
Strong. I come from a very urban area, like the most Brooklynese, thickest Brooklynese accent. He's like, I come from a farm. I raised chickens and I have a gun.
We played stickball on my
Exactly.
farm.
Yeah. We shot craps. I don't even know what that means. And I also liked it when he defended Hillary about the emails. And I think he may have won Hillary's vote for real, legit, for president.
Yeah,
she may
maybe
be
they'll
voting.
team up those two.
I know. I actually, that kind of made me happy. So I was looking through your book, If the Raindrops United, and a big theme here is gentrification and real estate.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
Sure. I moved to New York in 1987, and my dad's actually from Brooklyn.
He's Bernie Sanders.
When I was being raised, wasn't in New York. We were in, different places, but mostly Maryland. And so we would come up in the, I remember coming up to New York in I think 1981 as a kid, and it was just, the city was just, it was just so impressive and diverse, and for years I hadn't lived in Manhattan. I lived way out in Queens, a mile past the last stop on the subway. Wow. In a non-gentrified
rural
neighborhood
area
in Queens, not rural, but non-gentrified neighborhood. A neighborhood where literally, families had been living there for generations. This was Middle Village, Queens.
Oh, okay.
And so I would still be coming to the city every day to do different work or do shows at night. But when I moved back to Manhattan about a little under 2 years ago, it really just the classism in Manhattan, and I would say about half of Brooklyn at this point, was just staggering. And when people say New York, they're usually referring to Manhattan.
Right.
And they talk about it being the melting pot, the Big Apple. When you're in Manhattan, it's such an odd city because not only is it almost everyone is wealthy or ultra wealthy who lives in Manhattan, and that means people are mostly white, fair amount of Asian. That's the dominant and wealthy and ultra wealthy. But when you have a whole city like that, first of all, it's rare to have a whole city be wealthy. New York has always had wealthy and ultra wealthy, but it was never the majority. And when you have a city where the teachers, policemen, firemen, subway workers, mail delivery people, when all the service industry people and the blue-collar people, all of them are working in the city, but none of them actually can afford to live in the city, that's just not a healthy dynamic at all. And what I've also noticed about Manhattan is the bubble mentality, where so many people who live in Manhattan, and even people who are visiting, they really think they're in the midst of this amazing, diverse city. And I'm like, it's actually quite the opposite. And many people just do not see it. So many of the people who live in Manhattan really live a resort, 4-star hotel
Club
kind
Med.
of life.
Yeah.
Where they own an apartment. There's a door person who does everything for them, whether they're really supposed to or not. And it's just this odd. It's so odd, And so, anyways, I just started seeing it just more and more, and I think moving back, really just made me see it so much more. And I think it's also another reason I've seen it more is that it's been increasing. The classism and has been increasing. New York is a much less diverse place than it used to be.
Right.
So I think it's a combination of those things. So, a lot of that stuff is stuff I think about a lot. So so some of the drawings, and there's even a mini comic book in there, a 10-page comic book in the book called Gentrification Man. And Gentrification Man is the first superhero for the corporations and the ultra-wealthy. He stands up for their rights.
And how long does it take you? What's your process? I can't believe I just asked you that. But what is the process when you're doing something like this? Do you get an idea, sit down, do it? Do you make yourself sit down in a disciplined fashion?
It's a mix. The Gentrification Man one is an idea I had. That popped into my head, and I'm like, okay, this is not a stand-up bit. This is like a movie or a cartoon or a comic book. So that I started writing that one first, and then sort of with stick figures kind of drawing it out like how I wanted to map it out. And then I drew it out and was rewriting it as I went. Many of the drawings in the book, I literally I started doing, a year and a half, 2 years ago. And I always carry around pen and paper, and I just start doodling on my paper, or a lot I even drew on my phone with a stylus pen.
Oh, wow.
And I just start drawing them on there. Sort of as a way to initially to combat anxiety, and then because my mind races a lot. I think about a lot of different things, and sometimes when I'm reading, and I like reading, but my mind will just wander off somewhere else and start thinking about all these different things. So sort of as a way to combat anxiety, as well as just to get my thoughts out there and take a break from just focusing on stand-up all the time. I started doing some drawing, and I thought it was I found it very relaxing.
So you did it as a kid, and then you didn't pursue it as much as stand-up, and you kind of came back to it? Or?
Yeah, the past couple of years I really came back to it. I hadn't done it in quite a while, and after 30 Rock ended, I did a lot of touring, and then that's when I really kind of started drawing again.
Do you do any other artistic things anything else?
Well, even making my own hats,
Right.
It was like my mom actually taught me how to do some of the stuff on the hats. The ones I wore in 30 Rock that I made for that show were very simple. Those were just letters on a plain hat. But like the one I'm wearing now, there's a flag stitched on the side. There's a gold band going across the front that's stitched in, and then there's
another flag?
Yeah, so these are things that...
and what's signed? It looks like they're signed.
Yeah, I actually drew what's on the hat.
Champion?
It's figures of hands that's doing American Sign Language.
Ah. But what is it saying?
It says World Champion.
World Champion, okay. Just making sure. Yeah, that's what I thought, but maybe I thought. And what...
Yeah,
what
here's
about
a drawing I just did on my phone.
Oh, my God, that is so cool.
Yeah, so a lot of the drawings in my book...
Put this up on the website, obviously.
A lot of my drawings in the book I did on my phone, or
that's so cool.
I did on a tablet with a stylus pen.
That's how... And that's...
And I actually like drawing with pen and paper better, but I was on a tight deadline for the book, and, because I did all the drawings, and... 95% of the text in the book is handwritten also.
Right.
So because of, having to correct, grammar mistakes, if I did everything on tablet, that would be faster than redoing everything by pen and paper.
Got it.
So that was one of the reasons a fair amount are done on that.
Well, we have about a minute left. Anything else you want to make sure that people know about what you're up to next?
If you want to follow me on social media, I'm mostly on Twitter and Instagram, and it's at Judah World Champ, Judah World Champ. That's also my Facebook. And JudahFriedlander.com is the website. And then the book comes out Tuesday, and, I'm doing stand-up all over the place. So wherever you want to go,
Great.
come check it out.
And it's a really great book. It's hysterical. I focused on the more political stuff, but there's just hilarious stuff all over. There's a great picture.
Yeah, a lot of it's just pure comedy.
Yeah, it's one of the first ones is a picture of a rabbit. And it says rabbit running across the field wearing a human foot for good luck, which made me laugh out loud on the train. This is the Katie Halper Show. Thank you so much, Judah Friedlander. You can check us out every Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. on WBAI.org, 99.5 FM. Check us out on iTunes. Rate us on iTunes, The Katie Halper Show. Follow us on SoundCloud. And on Facebook, we're The Katie Halper Show. And we'll see you next week. And in 2 weeks, we will have none other than Ta-Nehisi Coates, author Ta-Nehisi Coates. Kind of a big deal. Judah Friedlander, another very big deal. Very excited about these guests. And Emily Nussbaum, we'll have her on in December. So we will see you soon. See you next week.